They say no limits, Texas. As if anyone's afraid of the limit. Bigger banking, bigger screens, a bigger show. You show up to Texas Motor Speedway, and the only limit is yourself.
Everyone says everything is bigger in Texas. For Christopher Demerit, it's not the track or the state. It's expectations that have become the biggest thing on his mind. 2 wins in the first 3 races, both coming on an oval. And after a brief trip to the road course in Alabama a few weeks ago, Demerit slid down the standings after a crash. A return to the big oval in Fort Worth is a chance to climb back to the top and continue his championship charge. And for everyone else, an opportunity to dethrone a driver who is quickly becoming the biggest threat on track. This is the 2021 Coca-Cola of Kokomo Indy Elite Series, round number 4, the Triptacular Memories 225. Kyle Heyer alongside Tom O'Gorman tonight for the 4th round of the season from Texas, a 1.5-mile quad oval near Fort Worth. Tonight, the sun is setting, but the season is just beginning. However, our favorites have already become staples at the top of the order. One of those drivers, Andreas Eich, is the current points leader. Tom, he has not finished anywhere else but 3rd, and he is our current points leader.
And that's because the driver that you've already mentioned the most, Christopher Demerit and Adam Blocker, they were 1st and 2nd in the first 2 rounds of the season as well. Both had challenging last weeks. Demerit crashed out, major incident, scored a couple of points, but salvaged what he could. Blocker missed it completely, wasn't even in the race. So Eich leads the championship, but those 3 have been on the podium every time they've been in the race together.
A beautiful night here just outside of Fort Worth. Having a look at the track temperature, 70 degrees in the air, 73 on the racetrack. Going to be a beautiful night for racing as the lights come on around Texas Motor Speedway. A great facility, just repaved a little while ago. And in just near Fort Worth has a population of about 1 million people just outside of this place. Constructed in 1996, a relatively new oval to both NASCAR, IndyCar, and more. The television on the back straightaway is the largest in the world at 218 feet wide and 95 feet tall. Qualifying underway here, Tom, for our 225-mile race brought to you by the Triptacular Memories. And cars on course, some new names in the field, drivers that we haven't seen much in the past. Trevor Greenfield is in the race tonight on course. But going back to Christopher Demerit, 2 wins in the first 3 races of the season. Both his wins came on ovals. He's also won here twice in the last 4 races that we've come to Texas. So Demerit is my pick early to be the favorite.
Well, I mean, if you're a gambling man, you've got to go with the odds, and Demerit has, again, won both ovals this season. And it's just been super, super consistent, not only in the races, but also in qualifying. And things have shifted a little bit for Adam Blocker, who's back tonight after missing last week's road race at Barber. He's finished 2nd in both rounds, the beginning of the season at Homestead, Miami, and Phoenix, but hasn't had the strongest qualifying, where Demerit has had better qualifyings and has ultimately come out on top both times. But for me, I mean, Andreas Eich is the most consistent across the board. He finished 3rd place all 3 rounds on a super speedway, a small short track, as far as IndyCar is concerned anyway, and a road course. So that car is going to be a big threat, and he's already quickest here in qualifying.
Andreas Eich continues to be at the top of the order. Doesn't speak a whole lot, Tom, but he goes out there and does his job every single time. Most of the field has already run a qualifying lap. Joe Branch is also a past winner of this race, currently 5th in the number 28 car. Carlos Gomez out on track. Philip Kraus in the number 19, defending champion, yet to roll off of pit lane in his red and white Dallara IR18. We're going to go over some keys to the race a little bit later, but one of the things I wanted to talk about, Tom, was the downforce package. It's been a long time since we've raced on an oval. The last time we only run the low downforce package once. That was at the season opener at Homestead. When we went to Phoenix, we ran the short track and road course package, which we also ran at Barber. So it's been a long time since we've had this much speed and this little downforce.
And it's makes the cars a handful. I think I was surprised as someone who's not super well versed in Indy cars on ovals just how loose the cars appear to be at Homestead, Miami, and this is an open setup series, so you can free the car up to be as much as you want, but you look at the minimum speeds in the corners here in qualifying, 213 miles an hour minimum speed, almost 220 the entire way through the corner as the car lifts just a little bit and scrubs that speed. But these cars are not just completely slot cars here, even as fast as this circuit is, as this oval is with the low downforce setup. It's, especially in the draft, you're wheeling them.
You're going to be wheeling them, and they might be stuck to the ground for the first couple laps and in clean air, but if you're behind someone and you're 15, 20 laps into a run, you're going to be lifting big time. You won't be touching the brakes a whole lot tonight, except for the trips down to pit lane, but you will be lifting, and how you lift and where you lift is going to be crucial in where you finish here tonight. So with qualifying almost complete, Lester Rorschach comes across the line in the 51. Will he improve? Yes, he will. A 24.163. It's not good enough to move him up any spots. Ray Kingsbury in the 25 jumps up to 22nd. And Ray Kingsbury is one of those drivers that we should keep an eye on as well, because he is on the move up, finished fourth, or I should say is fourth in the points championship after finishing second at Barber and 8th at Phoenix after a 23rd at Homestead. So Kingsbury also getting better and better every single week.
And he was in the top 5 back at Miami before he had a self-induced incident. He was off cycle and was one of the drivers that surprised me with that aero balance. He basically just spun on his own exiting turn 4 there, and that was the first indication to me that, oh, these cars are not just cruising around these super speedways. That is a real handful in there. But I mentioned earlier on, Blocker has not had the best season for qualifying. Look at that pole, 23.87 by 100th of a second over Andreas Eich.
Here's a driver we should keep our eye on, Wilson Nito in the number 80 car. Remember where he started at Homestead? First. Remember where he finished? Last. He got crashed out on lap number 2 after starting on pole. This could be a major disruption to Christopher Demerit trying to go 3 for 3 on the ovals here this season. Across the line for his first flying lap, 26.148. That's slow, but lap number 2 is going to be what puts him probably towards the top of the board. Let's ride on board here. And again, full throttle here in qualifying. Trim down to 4th gear, bit of a bobble on corner exit. Up to 5th, and it's interesting to watch the gearing. How much faster might they be going in the race if they're only in 4th in qualifying?
Well, the gearing is pretty tight, but that leads you to believe that if they're expected to hit the top of 6th, the draft is a huge factor here. Oh, there he goes, pole. Almost ties Adam Blocker, a 1,000th of a second between the two of them. And Nito, pole again at the Super Speedway.
There are 12 thousandths between the front 4, and there is less than 50 thousandths between the top 6. That just goes to show you how close it is here in the Coca-Cola of Kokomo Indy Elite Series for the Triptacular Memories 225. That's most of our front runners that have already qualified. Chris Cahoe and Chad Simpson still need to put in laps. Adam Dock is out on track in the number 99. Adam Crane is here. He's our most recent winner from Barber Motorsports Park. Now, I think he'd probably be better off on the road tracks. He also just came from the Canadian Endurance Series running in a C8R GTE car. So throw everything you just learned out the window. You got to jump back in a low downforce Indy car and find pace.
Yeah, big learning curve. But he won the race back at Barber in fantastic fashion. Won it in a one-stop strategy that we didn't see coming until the very closing stages. Leaped 12 positions in the championship and sits 6th, just behind Andrew Kinsella, who you can see on the left side of your screen is having a great night. Qualified 5th currently. Also, Cahoe, is it Brian Cahoe?
No, you're right, Chris Cahoe.
Chris Cahoe jumped way up there into 3rd while we were looking away.
Jumps up to 3rd, across the line for Crane, 23.975. That's good enough only for 16th. As Henry Bennett jumps to 7th. And Henry Bennett, remember, he had the tangles with Philip Kraus back at Phoenix the last time we were at Noval. And in the past, it was Henry Bennett and Adam Blocker that were the only 2 drivers that we could ever really consider to win a race. But there's been a lot of shuffling in the series pace-wise the last couple seasons. And now it seems like it's Demerit and Andreas Eich that are going to be the top 2 to chase so far this season. So in just a moment, we'll take you down to the grid for your starting lineup as well as our keys to the race here, Tom. But tonight's race, about 225 miles. At Homestead, we wadded up half the field on lap 2. Do you think these drivers learn from that and are going to approach this race a little bit differently? I'm
sure they learn from it, and they may approach the race a little bit differently, but also things just happen so fast on a track this big, and that's one of our keys to the race, that it is a massive track. But the space available is kind of small. So you see the first line there, big track, small line. The usable line here without really letting the car get away from you or losing a lot of time is right at the bottom of the track, and it's a very narrow place where every other track we've been to, both ovals anyway, and that I can think of, there are places where you can work the line a little bit, run high, run low, and find some advantage in the track somewhere. This one, it's not very obvious where the advantage might come from other than just sticking to the bottom.
Yeah, having a look here at our racetrack, you can see here in the yellow where that rubbered in line is. It's about maybe a car width and a half, maybe 2 car widths. We might see some drivers venture up into this red zone here. You can see where that line is just a little bit. But once you get up into this blue zone here, Tom, you get up in here, you're going to hit this wall right up there.
Yeah,
There's no saving it.
That yellow line might look like it's 2 lanes wide, but it's 2 lanes wide like highway speed. At 213 miles an hour, that's not 2 lanes wide.
That's about an inch wide at 200 miles an hour. Also to note, Krista Merritt and Matt Kingsbury will both have to start at the rear. EOL penalties for them for past infractions. Let's head down to the racetrack here and get our starting lineup going here on the front row tonight. It's going to be, well, I didn't have that quite sorted out just yet. A little bit of a mistake there. But I should mention Christopher DeMeritt was going to be starting up in the top 5. He will not. So we're going to shift our focus to Wilson Needle because he is our pole sitter here, Tom. And again, it was a short-lived pole at Homestead. He will roll off again in pole and see if he can last a little bit longer this time around in that bright purple car. Easy to spot this time. It was sitting on pit lane on the body, or on the frame rather, for most of Homestead. He's going to try to repeat getting a victory and not sitting on pit road.
But just behind him is going to be Adam Blocker, his best qualifying effort this season, and he's wasted a lot of time in past rounds working his way from outside of the top 10 or just at the bottom of the top 10 up towards that front to finally earn a second position in each of those 2 races. Now he starts in second. How much further from the field will he be when he wins this race potentially?
Starting in third will be the number 57 of Chris Cahoe. He'll roll off in position number 3 in that Diet Coke car. And Chris Cahoe always good at these ovals. And it's Andreas Ike, the current points leader. He has finished third every round so far as tonight, the night that he breaks that streak, Tom.
Yeah, Mr. Consistency starts 1 position away from where he always finishes, it seems. And then Andrew Kinsella will round out the top 5 with Henry Bennett just behind him in the dark green. A couple of green cars there. IndyCar drivers aren't so fond of green cars. These guys going against the grain. You know that theory?
I do know that theory. I also know that there's no pit stall number 13 at Indianapolis for the same reason. So a little superstitious in IndyCar, perhaps. Field rolling off through turns 1 and 2. Going back to the keys of the race, we talked about big track, small line. How about DeMeritt's third win, going 3 for 3 on the ovals? He's going to have to do it from the back. Then downforce package. We've mentioned it briefly. Not a lot of downforce to play with, especially in traffic. So watch the Aero push tonight, Tom. Don't put yourself in a bad spot right behind somebody else. One last look at the weather here. 70 degrees pretty much in the air and on the racetrack. It's going to be a very comfortable evening. Temperature is probably only going to go down from here. 150 laps. This race will take us about 59 minutes to complete without cautions. But I suspect that there will be cautions. Wilson Needle out front in the number 80. Trying again from the pole position as he did at Homestead, Miami at the beginning of the season. And make sure you join us again next week for Pocono, the Tricky Triangle in Pennsylvania. The Triptacular Memories 225 from Texas Motor Speedway from the Lone Star State. You're watching Sim TV for the Coca-Cola of Kokomo Indy Elite Series, 225 miles, and we are green.
Whoa, big slice from Chris Cahoe underneath, trying to get to that bottom line, but he couldn't quite get there. Blocker and pole sitter Nito are single file down to the bottom line. Ike is hung out to dry, and then the field stringing into turns 1 and 2.
On the back straightaway for the first time. Single file, get there quickly. And sort out how your car is going to handle. Again, remember, open setups here. You can play with a lot over the course of this race, both in pit lane and in the car. Cahoe on the inside, Ike on the outside trying to hang that line. Here comes Blocker for the top spot on Nito.
Top 8 breaking away. How many resources are you using up on the outside line? We're talking about it being a pretty narrow margin at the bottom. Ike works around the outside of Cahoe, somehow picks up the 3rd position and is trying to get around Blocker, and has the draft, does so, up to 2nd place for Ike.
Ike to P2, A.J. Burton in the number 15 car on the outside of, or on the inside rather, of Brian Carey in the 79 through 3 and 4. And here comes Bennett in the 007 at the bottom of the racetrack. Getting real tight there. Don't like the looks of this. They were getting real brave, and for the lead, here comes Ike to the outside.
Maybe he's tired of third. This is a really racy start for the 76 around the outside, and he's made it work a couple of times. We didn't think that was going to work. Whoa, almost a touch between the top two. Nito got crashed out a lap and a half into the first round of this season. Doesn't want that to happen again, and now Blocker with a run on Ike. Ike tries to shut the door. Look at how quick they are across the start.
220 miles an hour. Blink of an eye, a frame perhaps behind them. Chris Cahill going to get split 3 wide on the outside. That's not going to be grippy up there for the Kinsella car, but he made it stick somehow.
Maybe there's more usable space up high than we thought. Ike seems to be preferring it for sure. He's run the entire race middle of the banking there.
Note that turns 3 and 4 are a little bit higher banked than turns 1 and 2, so you could probably get away with the outside in 3 and 4. But 1 and 2 is wider, but a lot less banked, about 4 degrees less, I believe, 20 versus 24. So turns 1 and 2, you're going to have to stay a little bit closer to that inside lane. But here comes Ike again to the outside.
Down at the bottom, Demerit up to 28th real quick, but this at the front, these guys are so much more racy than I expected starting off this race. It's a long one.
5 laps into 150. Ike to the outside again, past the start-finish line. Here comes Adam Blocker back to the front. In the past, he's been a champion of the series. He's won multiple races. But this season, we've seen pace, but not dominance in these races.
His race pace has been dominant, but his qualifying efforts have been holding him back, and this is the best effort that he's had in qualifying, but he doesn't seem to have the race pace that, at least yet, I mean, we're 6 laps into a long race, but he's been able to just masterfully pick off drivers one by one and really outpace them in the races. Now he's starting to hunt on the back of Ike, but he prefers to follow Ike around the circuit, interestingly enough. He's not following Nito down the straightaways, he's following Ike.
Bit of understeer there, following in behind Wilson Nito through turns 1 and 2. Now Ike back to the outside, and Nito crowds him into turn 3. That's, whoa, Ike pulls back down in line. That almost turned into a collision at 220 miles an hour caution. And it is Marshall Stanley's number 55 at the exit of turn number 2. So first caution at lap number 8. Stanley leaving turn number 2, understeers, and then
look who was right there. Demerit barely missed him, and it's a single car incident, but it will bring out the first caution of the race. Only the nose cone missing off of that car.
Yeah, we're right on board here. I think he just got behind in overcorrecting, or in correcting rather. Just happened so fast, Tom. Oh.
If you didn't believe me about these cars being a handful at this speed, that tells you just how quickly it can go wrong. Here's our championship contender and most frequent race winner so far, Christopher Demerit, who's at the bottom of the track when this incident happened, watches the car on the right side, floats across his nose, and he's gone.
And another driver that drove right by it was that Dakota DiCienzo? Yes, let's ride on board the 43 car here. Dakota DiCienzo. That is Dan Ench in front of him. Watch the car up the road on the top left of your screen. There it is. Bounces right across the racetrack. He's kind of pinned in there. Wow, that was at 180 miles an hour easily.
So tight. And that tells you also how far up the road you have to look, but pit lane's already a busy place. Number of the races this season, in fact, all of them, in my opinion, have been run on race strategy, not won on race strategy, not on the racetrack. So these pit stops, you got to be really adaptable with them.
Yeah, pretty much everyone from 18th on back came to pit lane, so pretty even split. 17 stayed in, 18th to 33rd, or I should say stayed out, 18th to 33rd came on down pit lane. Also should note that Dan Ench, this number 52, has an Alzheimer's Association on board this car this week. Good looking Spark VR Dallara IR18. Good to have Dan Ench representing ALZ.org on the side of that Indy car. Matt Hollaba in the 21st position has Demerit right behind him, who's up from dead last, 33rd to 22nd. And he took this opportunity to come to pit lane here, Tom. So why not?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that he didn't do what Matt Kingsbury did. The other EOL driver, Kingsbury in the 21, he did not pit. So he's the last car that didn't pit and sits 17th. And honestly, I think for those two drivers who should have started much further up the grid, not pitting right now just to get the track position would have been a better call. But in the end, it's only about 6 positions between the two now. Demerit has done that pit stop.
Well, let's think about how this race pans out. Again, we have 140 laps left. Maybe it might be even 139 when we get back green. It'll be 140. I think Demerit might have seen an opportunity here to split this race up a little bit differently if that 10 laps took him to a different place in the race. So we'll revisit this around the halfway point and see where the strategies are. But that 10 laps might have made a difference to make it to a window where he could make it to the end on one stop. So I would imagine if that was that easy to calculate, everybody would have done it. but we'll see if short-term gain, long-term loss for some of the drivers that stayed out. Out front, though, it's Wilson Nito in the number 80, who has thankfully led more laps than he did at Homestead. He's led 9 of all 9 that we've completed, actually. Andreas Eich has battled up for position, but has not yet taken the lead away officially. Team Talent Racing car in second. I mentioned we've actually never talked to Andreas before, but he doesn't doesn't require any conversation, Tom. He just goes out there, he'll win a race, he'll finish second, third, fourth, and he just goes away. He comes back next week, does the same thing. I can respect that. It's a lot like Kimi Räikkönen, actually.
I was going to say, we were talking a lot about how we don't necessarily get to talk to any of these drivers much, don't know them personally, but I was going to say the same thing. Räikkönen vibes out of Andreas Eich, and you can see them gluing themselves up to that top wall. You can pass on the right, but not on the left on restarts. So if you close the right lane down, Nito will get the green flag for the restart.
Lap number 11 of 150. Great restart for the number 80. Fires off nice and smooth. And up through the gears they go. All single file all the way down through turn number 4 still. And it'll take them a lap or two to build that speed back up to the point where they can make passes. Eich swings to the outside, aggressive today with the maneuvers he's making. Feels very confident in his setup from what I've seen. There are some slow cars in the back. Is there trouble? There is. Crash, debris all over the racetrack. Musselman in the 54, John Downing also collided, and there's big pieces of bodywork there on the back straightaway. Will Wilson Nito run into them? Right there, just misses it. Caution.
That took a long time for the caution to come out. Nito almost lost the rear end of the car trying to dodge that piece of debris. But are we getting a little glimpse of things to come? 2 cautions in 12 laps. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's Musselman in the yellow car colliding with John Downing. A few other cars got a piece of that. At the exit of turn 2, I think Musselman actually turns down the racetrack. I don't think he knew Downing was there and slams into him. That was a horrific crash.
I don't think he was actually trying to go down there. I think he was already sliding, the rear end coming around on the top line. Watch the rear end of the car. He's already gone before they made contact. So it's looking like the exit of turn 2 might be a bit hairy on the setups for these cars with as little downforce as they're running. We saw the minimum speed in qualifying there was 213 miles an hour.
Yeah, let's go right on board again with Dakota DiCienzo, who's had quite the view of a lot of these incidents here tonight. The exit of turn 2, tires flying. Trying to weave around it. There's another tire. Whoop, and some contact there. Might have picked up some damage with Dan Ench potentially. And then, while all that was happening, Wilson Nito comes out at turn 2. I'm not sure if the damage will, the piece of debris. Oh, right there. Wow. Look at that, Tom. That was almost disaster.
Yeah. Yeah, and think about how early he would have had to pick that up in his vision to react to it. It's a relatively good save right there. Really, relatively impressive save, I should say. That was not just a little, oop, I'm going to miss that.
So caution is out for the second time today. A handful of drivers will come down pit lane. Adam Dock, Christopher, Dan Ench, Carlos Gomez, Watkins, Thompson, DiCienzo, Rorschach. Musselman and Downing, I believe, are out for the day with the crash damage that they had. That car is definitely toast. There's Downing, missing some important components. So where did Demerit end up? Actually dropped a couple positions on that. Oh no, he came down pit lane a second time, which is interesting. He didn't take tires that time though, just fuel.
You know, this early in the race, I don't mind the strategy of pit every time you can, just because it always leaves you the opportunity to skip a pit stop later. But at some point, you do have to start to consider when it would be smart to pit and when it wouldn't, because if you look at Kingsbury, who started the exact same position as Demerit, right at the back, there's 7 cars between the two, and every position is a big deal in these incidents. You could be the one that's in the bad spot really quickly.
So what I'm seeing so far is that turn 2 has been calamity corner. Drivers are really struggling with this. This might be something that we see some more times tonight, Tom, but again, an open setup series, sometimes to be fast, you got to make the car a little bit deadly to hang on to. But if you crash, it doesn't matter. So is there an advantage for Andreas Eich? He seems very stable right now. He's picked a setup, or at least worked on a setup that seems like he could put that car anywhere he wants on the racetrack. But it's also outright quick. So you have to wonder what these other drivers are doing, maybe sacrificing downforce to kind of make up for a bit of pace loss. It doesn't seem like it's a good transition or a good trade-off to make.
No, but at the same time, the incidents have been happening outside of the top 20, so it may just come down to someone who's comfortable with the car moving the way that it does. If you're a driver that's less experienced, but you know that's how you make speed, it's a hard decision to make to go, I'm going to make the car slower so that I am 100% confident that I'm not going to make an incident with it. If you are 95% confident you won't make an incident with the setup that you know is faster. So I think it's a little bit of a roulette, but a driver at the top, like any of the top 5 even, they're probably on every bit as loose a setup.
You're watching the Triptacular Memories 225 from Texas Motor Speedway just outside of Fort Worth. And, well, I know it was snowing in Texas the other day. It's also, I think, still snowing here in Chicago. Maybe it stopped a little bit. I don't think we need more, so I would like it to stop. I can tell you that. But we are 2 cautions in, 15 laps into this 150-lap race, 10% complete, with Wilson Nito out in front. And ran pole at Homestead, was never able to really show us how fast he could be. And maybe the big speedways are where Wilson Nito excels, and the reason why that's a good thing is because we got a lot of big speedways on the schedule.
And he was out, again, coming into turn 1 on the 2nd lap. He got kind of split, and contact took that car out of the race almost immediately. So this is a bit of redemption for him as well, just to come back out and have a successful run like this at the front. And I agree that Ike seems to be the most confident in the car, putting it in places that everybody else is not. But
oh no. Wilson Nito dropping down the order, Tom. Commentator curse.
What happened?
Internet-related issue, perhaps.
Is he gone?
He's gone.
Oh, man.
Drops off the timing and scoring screen. That will put Andreas Ike to the top spot. Wilson Nito cannot buy luck. Gosh, I hate that.
I'm still shocked. I guess it did happen, didn't it?
We've seen a lot of this lately, just today in general. We've seen people have a lot of problems, but man. Nito drops to the bottom. He got to get back in here real quick. He could only go 2 or 3 laps down. Now remember, if we get enough cautions, he could theoretically get his way back, but he's got to be quick.
Well, and I think that's maybe due to just the extreme weather that's in a majority of the United States right now. If most of these drivers are probably in the central and eastern United States.
Or Brazil.
Oh, well, maybe not for him then. I was going to say, a lot of the country's infrastructure has been tested heavily, but that puts Mr. Third Place and Andreas Ike up to first. Adam Blocker behind Andrew Kinsella third. AJ Burton and Brian Carey are the top 5 now, coming back to the green flag. And this, maybe Ike is not expecting this. What does he know how to do? You know, how comfortable do you think he is leading a race like this?
Well, he seemed really aggressive chasing, and we'll see if he can be the rabbit for Adam Blocker here in the 74. Well, I think the racing gods have said who they wanted to win this race. Andreas Ike might be tired of finishing 3rd. Here is his opportunity to run away. Lap number 17 of 150. Green flag back in the air.
Ooh, good start for Kinsella in 3rd, too. He's going with Blocker pretty well. You see the gap there at 4th, but everything's single file.
Looks
Demerit charging. Nope, that was
Matt Hollaba.
Hollaba charging on the outside, too.
Advantageous on the restart. Went to the outside. Fair game there. You can pass to the right, just not to the left. Now Adam Blocker to the top spot here on the outside of Andreas Ike, side by side through 3 and 4. Again, climbing up the banking, running down the hill to try to build that run on corner exit. In turn 1, Ike going to go low. Adam Blocker up high. This is where I don't like to be, but he's able to turn that car down to the apex. And Ike sticking to the bottom. He feels very comfortable running all the way down there and now staying defensive for turn 3.
Both drivers that have run 2nd place are staying out of the draft for the most part, but Blocker finally tucks in through the apex of 4 and gets a run up the outside of Ike. Gets the nose cone there, but no more. And it looks like drivers can be very confident in 3-4, but not so confident in 2, because again, that Calamity Corner is catching people out pretty quickly. Ike, you're right. He's staying a full lane or more down from the wall.
It just tells me that it seems like he's running way more downforce than everybody else, but he's not giving up a ton of time on the straight, so I don't know how that's happening. Demerit high in 3 and 4, losing a spot to Joe Branch, tucks back in line. His progress has been slow after he dropped to the back here with an EOL.
We knew passing would be tough tonight, so this of the nights to get an EOL, this could be a pretty disastrous one for one of our championship contenders. But
Showen and Adam Dock side by side for 19th. Chris Stouffer in the 13 car getting run down. And Matt Kingsbury, 17th. That's where he restarted. And he also hasn't made any progress. There's Charles Ante in the 86. Team talent. His teammate up there leading the race with Adam Blocker threatening to take it away at any moment. But Blocker is defending very, very well. Or she's Ike, rather. And Blocker has not been able to decisively take this lead away. I think Ike is the quicker car. Kinsella and Burton sitting 3rd and 4th. Brian Carey back in 5th, and Henry Bennett in 6th. Philip Kraus, defending champion, running 8th right now in the number 19 car. And Going to run down Kehoe. See, Kehoe got out of that line and just slowed way down, lost all that grip in that right front tire, and was not able to keep that speed up.
There seems to be a very fine line there on the final phases of turn 2 that if you're below it, you're cool, and if you're above it, you're in a really hairy situation. You saw that Kraus and Kehoe, Kraus was below it, Kehoe was above it, and Kraus picks up the spot because of it.
Ike still hangs on to lead. Charles Ante on the outside of Matt Kingsbury. They will trade spots there. Matt Hollabo with a great restart is charged up to 14th. He started 17th, made a pit stop, and he is the farthest driver forward who has made a pit stop here. It's 3 positions back to find the next driver, Chris Stouffer in 18th place. Look at how fast Hollabo's running up on the back of Chad Simpson here.
Well, he certainly made good with that awesome restart. It's going to split. He had split the teammates, now puts them side by side, Simpson and Crane, who both, big incident.
Oh, trouble.
In front, Demerit's also going to be in the wall.
Caution. Chris Stouffer with the worst of it, turned around.
Thought I saw Demerit also spinning, but maybe was dodging low. Stouffer, heavy impact.
It's all by himself.
Off of turn 2.
Oh, Ante turns down the racetrack, tags Stouffer, Demerit dodging. He managed to get through it there, Tom, but bad luck for Stouffer. Didn't do anything wrong, just wrong place, wrong time.
And again, that line that we were talking about in turn 2, the car that was up high loses it early, and the car that's down low pays for it.
I don't think he was out of control. I think Ante just turned down the racetrack because he was in felt like he was in a bad spot because of the line he was in. You can't, if you're up high at the exit of the corner, you're going to hit the outside wall. So he's going to turn down the racetrack here to try to get out of that groove and maybe get past the car in front of him. He turns down and tags Chris Stouffer, and he just gets the worst end of that for sure. One more look at it. Tried to shoot the gap there, Tom, and just Stouffer didn't realize another car was going to be down there so easily, and it's looking like it's going to be tough to go more than about 10 laps without incident at this race. We don't have enough cars for that to eventually we're going to run out of cars to go side by side, but a majority of the field again going to the pit lane. Curious if anybody from the top 15 or so picked up on it this time, because all the top 15 have been staying out. Well, Andreas Ike stayed out as well. Everyone else hit pit road. 26 laps in, they might feel like tires are advantageous now. But Andreas Ike differing from the norm and stays out on the racetrack. I don't know about that call, Tom. I think at this point, I think you'd want to have tires.
Perhaps, but if you think back to Miami, Ike actually finished 3rd because of a tire gamble and a pit stop gamble. So I don't know if it's a gamble so much. I don't know that there's a need to gamble so much, I should say, when you're leading the race. You should be the one in control. But check out who just joined up into the top 3. It's our usual suspects.
Well, Demerit comes down pit lane, and he just took fuel because he had set himself up prior with some tires. So puts him up into 2nd, and now he's got fresher tires than Ike does. So that ended up kind of negating any of the positions lost that he had. Remember, he would have started this race, I think, in 3rd officially, or rather 6th. So he's actually going to make up all that ground plus some with a pit stop call here. And now it's going to be a bit dangerous because we knew he was fast before. We'll see if he can actually run up there and stay up there now. Evan Adams up into 10th in the number 59. David Adams in 11th in the 00. Matt Hollaba, Kitchell, Simpson, Crane, the rest of the top 15. And we've lost out of this race A.J. Musselman in the 54, John Downing, Marshall Stanley. Wilson Nito has not rejoined. That's a shame for him for sure. Lester Rorschach is back out on the racetrack. And a couple laps down, Chris Stouffer is likely done for the day. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back for the restart here for the Coca-Cola of Kokomo Indy Elite Series for the Triptacular Memories 225. Stay with us. Back live for the Triptacular Memories 225 here on SimTV for the Coca-Cola of Kokomo Indy Elite Series. Third caution in the first 28 laps of this race. Starting off a little bit messy, but as they typically go, we're going to kind of whittle it down, and we'll get rolling here at some point. But we haven't had a long green flag run to really see how this race is going to play out yet. I can tell you, though, that Andreas Eick seems to be the fastest driver out there. However, two-time race winner, the only driver to have won an oval this season. Did a little bit of a pit strategy call here, Tom, and he sits second for the restart. Just in front of Adam Blocker, and that is the championship standings right now as it sits. Eick, Demeritte, Blocker are the top three. Kinsella is there in the green car sitting fourth, but Eick, I agree, is maybe, if not the fastest car, he's making the boldest moves tonight. When he was in second, he was making bold moves. He stayed out as the leader with the only car that has not made a pit stop. That's a bold move. He seems confident tonight, at least. Is there a fear of being overconfident, maybe? Is that going to cost him later in this race? Or it's working out pretty well so far? I was going to say, I'm not going to pretend I know more than he does. So I'll go along with his confidence until it stops paying off. But right now, the 76 at the point. And then we'll say, I knew you were going to, I knew that wasn't going to work out. Exactly. I had a feeling. All right, to the restart, lap number 29 of 150. Andreas Eick in control, green flag. Tell you what, Kinsella's got those timings down. Look at him still glued to the back of Blocker. That's two great restarts so far for the 14 car. Now it's a little bit of a four-car breakaway at the front, but Eick clearing the field at least until they get back up in the drafting speed. Bit of a scramble at the exit of turn two, a slow car. I think it was Tony Schowen struggling here. A couple of cars, Schowen disappearing for a moment. Bit of a mad scramble here in the back of the field. This is all about for 20th as Demeritte and Blocker run for second. And it's amazing how easily they can stick to the bottom if they just choose to run down there. You will not be able to do that later in the run once your tires wear out, but when they're early going, you can stick it to the bottom like a fly in the trap. It seems that way, but it didn't pay off for Demeritte the way it has been for Eick. As Blocker goes through, now Kinsella threatening for the top three spot. You can see as soon as Demeritte gets in front of Kinsella, he had to lift, turn in harder, and also drop a gear to maintain that same cornering radius. So all that aerodynamic force that is no longer there when that car pulls down in front, that's going to be a big factor, as it always is. Halaba continues his forward climb to the outside of Adams, and he's going to complete that pass. Another Adams in front to go grab a position from. Those two somewhat teammates on the same team, the little yellow nose cone there, but this is what Blocker tends to look like. He looks like he just knifes through the field like hot butter, or like a hot knife in butter. You know what's funny is that Finian said the same thing. Did he? A knife through hot butter. You carry great company. But Halaba is the hot knife tonight, and he's just really climbing through the field quickly. Oh, Blocker caution. Blocker slow, I meant to say. Caution again for the fourth time. Come on, guys. I don't even know where this one came from. Dakota DiCienzo slow, but I don't think he was the cause of it. Charles Ante in the 86. Off track. What happened here? He had contact with the driver earlier on, running the high line. This time, couldn't keep it out of the wall. Comes back across the field. Oh, tagged Kingsbury, I think. Ray Kingsbury. He might have actually escaped that without a lot of damage. Charles Ante caused the two cautions of the four we've had tonight. And this is the danger of turn two, the way it flattens out. That's why he dodged the outside groove before, and this time he didn't do it, and he ended up, the banking drops off here before the corner's done. If you time it wrong. Yeah, he reacted very late to that one as well. Look at the steering input here, too. Let's just keep an eye on the steering wheel. He didn't realize he was in the wall for a very, very long time. Watch the steering. Down. It just locks. Oh, interesting. There's a hardware failure there, I think. That doesn't happen. Maybe. Yeah, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt there for the 86 car. Either way, he'd already hit the wall. Perhaps the wall impact broke something in the hardware on his end. But again, a huge rush to pit lane for a majority of the field. But that is great timing for a certain someone. Andreas Eick got a opportunity. Did he even pit again? Nope, he didn't. He stayed out again. Only drivers from the bottom 15 of the field came down pit road. So Eick will stay out again. And with that, we're going to step away once more. After our fourth caution in the first 34 laps, Eick, Blocker, Demeritte, Kinsella, Burton, your top five. We'll be right back.
They say no limits, Texas. As if anyone's afraid of the limit. bigger show. You show up to Texas Motor Speedway, and the only limit is yourself.
You're watching the Triptacular Memories 225 from Texas Motor Speedway. Kyle Heyer alongside Tom O'Gorman. 46 minutes left if we go green from here to the end, but so far it's been riddled with yellow. 4 cautions in the first 35 laps, challenging racetrack, and all of those collisions have happened at the exit of Turn 2, Tom. Calamity Corner at Texas.
Didn't quite see that one coming in our keys to the race, but that has been the defining feature of this race for only 35 of 150 laps. You see the field working their way down the back straightaway, and it's when that corner flattens out onto the back straightaway, things get interesting.
Yeah, you can see right here, and this is a result of the reprofiling this track had only a couple years ago. This corner has actually been basically knocked flatter than it used to be, and the way that this profiling changed was the track used to be banked something like this. Now it's banked a little bit more like this. Knocked a couple degrees off. The track's been widened a little bit. It's been shaved closer to the inside, but the way the banking drops off here, the track is essentially flat here, and the banking starts to end back here. So this whole area in red, the banking goes away. You're not done cornering, Tom, and at 200 miles an hour, the track is going to flatten. You're going to get massive understeer right at the end there, and if you're not preparing for it, it's almost weird when you're sitting in the car. It doesn't matter if it's a stock car or an Indy car. You feel that car at the last moment push, and if you're not ready to catch it, you're going to hit that fence, and if you are aware that you need to catch it and you oversteer, you're just going to end up crashing onto the other wall. So it's a very unforgiving corner for a lot of reasons.
And we've seen both things happen tonight, but it tends to be the driver that is on the high line and either doesn't plan their exit very well or just doesn't quite see the end of the corner coming and realize they're going to be in the wall. That has caused the issue. But it's still Andres Eick at the front, having not completed any pit stops yet. Adam Blocker sits second place, and Christopher Demerit, having completed 2 pit stops from the back of the field, worked his way up through, skipping 1 pit stop and sits third.
Ray Kingsbury looked like he had gotten some massive damage in that recent collision, but looking back, I don't think he actually got anything to note. Did come down pit lane potentially, but might have been able to net code his way through that one. That was a little bit lucky. That's the advantage of racing these Indy cars, Tom, as we talk about iRacing's prediction net code. These cars go so fast that those predictions have to be so far ahead that often you get a lot luckier driving through crashes because the prediction code assumes that you're already through it. So it ends up saving you more times than not. Andreas Eick on the outside, covering Blocker, Demerit, Kinsella, Burton, the rest of the top 5. Then it's Bennett, Carey, Kraus, Cahoe, and Evan Adams, the rest of your top 10. We'll try this again, lap number 37 of 150. The Coca-Cola of Kokomo Indy Elite Series is green again, racing from Texas. See if we can get these guys in a groove and get some green flag running in and see how these drivers kind of fare on a longer run. Halaba already on a continuous climb, jumps Evan Adams into 10th. He's also been taking advantage of that restart. You reference him as like a hot knife through butter. He continues the slide through butter of the field here. Here's David Adams past Evan Adams into turn 3, makes that move complete. There's Mike Kitchell in the Pennzoil car following.
It is interesting. You said we don't quite know. This race hasn't gotten to take its shape yet as far as green flag runs. We don't really know what to expect, other than we know that the car should be able to go over even 40 laps on a stint. We haven't done more than about 10 in green flag running. So the shape that this race has taken is, the shape it will take, I should say, is a big
circle.
Mystery.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's the shape it'll probably be. Whoa, defensive line by Crane, slams the door on Riley Thompson into turn 1. Didn't want him to go by. Here comes Matt Kingsbury, gonna roll the outside lane. Somehow there's that understeer. Watch the lift, makes it stick.
Just in front, Chad Simpson made that big lane change that has caused incidents earlier. He didn't have anybody beneath him, so it was okay. But he's looking on, trying to pick up a position from Mike Kitchell down the front straightaway. Kitchell in the yellow.
And remember that Chad Simpson and Adam Crane worked together at Barber. Adam Crane won that race.
Yeah, the only 2 drivers to figure out they could do it on 1 pit stop, and they executed it to perfection. Crane winning and Simpson finishing 10th. They're both mired outside of the top 10 right now. Something also happened at the front. Big shuffles. Andrew Kinsella up to third, AJ Burton fourth, Demerit down to fifth, and Henry Bennett threatening Demerit's position there in sixth.
Yeah, Demerit doesn't seem like he's got the pace now. Remember, the way that this is all panned out is he's actually been out there a little bit longer, 27 laps on his tires versus 15 for Blocker, Kinsella, and Burton. However, Andreas Ike has been out on track for 41 laps and has not hit pit lane yet. He's on a completely different strategy and seems like he's willing to stick to it.
Maybe he's banking on all of these cautions. Whether he had a crystal ball or is just reading the room and figuring out that this is going to be a messy race, it's hard to say. Blocker runs high. That's what we've seen the car in second place do all the time, trying to avoid that incident, that aero wash. But Ike, the only driver that seems to really be preferring to glue the car to the bottom of the track as much as he can all the way around.
Ike is from Scandinavia. I just imagine him having a little cabin in the woods in the snow with a little crystal ball and a smoky vision of all the caution flags tonight. But he's been crushing it so far with his expectations, staying out front.
Side by side, Kinsella and Burton just behind them. Burton trying to go up the inside. They're very close on the back straightaway. Kinsella pinching him to the bottom.
Oh, that was
really,
tight.
really tight. That's the two lanes we were talking about at 60 miles an hour. Sure, no problem. They're doing 200.
Not out of the clear yet. Kinsella might try to tuck back in. Burton into turn 1 and 2. He's going to try to stick on the outside. Again, he has to lift mid-corner because the track's going to fall away. He knows that he's going to have to do that. Pulls back in line. Here's that run, but no, he's going to go to the outside again. 3 and 4, he can run the upper groove. Not so much in 1 and 2. Merritt following, licking his lips as he sees those drivers side by side. And Blocker going for the lead.
Ducks high pretty much every lap there at the start-finish line, but then doesn't know what to do with it. Kinsella gets hung out really high. Demerit's going to show the nose underneath up the back straightaway. Not quite able to do anything with it. Goes single file once again.
Kinsella and Burton are scaring me, man. They're running side pod to side pod, not leaving each other a whole lot of room. Fighting tooth and nail.
That's the thing, if you're Kinsella, you can put the guy down on the white line, but trusting him to be able to stay there. If he hits you, it's maybe not your fault, but also maybe it is because you put him there and you didn't give him an out, you know?
Well, every time you fight tooth and nail, there's the potential for an impact, Tom, so I'm not liking this so much. Actually, there's always impact, generally, unless you're using a soft hammer, but it's not usually very effective.
Merritt loses another 2 spots. Henry Bennett and Philip Kraus both go by. Bennett to 5th in the dark green with red wheels. Kraus just
Kinsella's way out of the groove in turn 2, but it somehow found him grip. He's going to run side by side still. I thought he was going to end up in the fence up that high.
No, he's tried it a couple laps in a row and then pins Burton to the bottom and going into 3. It's a bold strategy because he's really kind of asking for an incident, but it's working out for him. He's working his way up alongside and almost around. He is around.
Is he clear yet, though? That's the question. Yes, he is. Made it. Wow, that's impressive. I didn't know that was going to happen tonight. And a big two-second gap from Evan Adams back to Kingsbury. Then it's Kitchell and a whole other group of cars as Adam Crane drops to the bottom of the Pennzoil car, goes for 13th place, and he'll take it.
Kind of 2 packs of 10 forming here in the top 20. And things in both packs are very, very spicy right now. Bennett trying the outside, Kraus up the inside. But look at the raw pace of Ike. He's just
pulling away.
Gone.
On 40-lap-old tires. I think he might not have a crystal ball, but I think he is a wizard. He's got some sort of magic tires under that thing because they're not falling off very much either. 0.2 of a second. That's what Adam Blocker's tires have fallen off to, so I'm not really sure what's going on. We don't never really expect the tires to fall off a lot in pace. It just seems like they end up understeering more throughout the race. But Ike just has that thing dialed.
I don't know the exact pit window, but I have to imagine that Andreas Ike is approaching a problem of a green flag pit stop.
Well, I imagine it's the 1/3 mark right here. If you could go 50 laps on a stint, which is what he did here, then you split it into equal thirds. We'll see if he makes that stop. But if it goes green to the end from here, it's going to make everything else. You're still going to have to pit twice from here, I think. So he might have just planned this out perfectly, and he's on the apron into 3 and 4. Will he come hit pit lane? Yes. So we know exactly what Ike's strategy is here. Locks him up, gets it down to pit road speed just in time. And Blocker will inherit the lead. But we know what Ike's strategy is now. Pit at lap 50 and at lap 100 and be done. Everyone else still has to pit twice. So he's still on strategy, was just a lot more efficient with how he did it.
On paper, but I think the drivers that are more flexible with their strategies tend to end up the ones that are more successful. And Ike has benefited from being flexible like that in the past, so for him to go to a rigid strategy like that is interesting. But starting with a rigid strategy, I guess, it's not the nail in the coffin. If he stays rigid, that might be.
Well, if you get a caution at lap 75 or 80, then you're going to have to change it. I don't think you have the option of just ignoring yellow flags and staying that close to that strategy, but we'll see if it pays off to do what he's doing right now. We've gotten deep enough into this run that I think we might go longer. So this could go green from here to the end, which would be about 39 minutes of racing. Kraus right behind Bennett, going to swing to the outside. Got Demerit and Burton behind him.
Shuffled Burton back pretty quickly. Demerit's finally really off his heels, back on his feet, and Bennett looking really strong as well. Bennett, remember, led the entire first stint back at Miami, which was the other fast speedway we run. Seems to do really well with these big speedways.
Caution, and just like that, the one that we thought was going to happen did not. And it's Trevor Greenfield in the 36 car. That thing is destroyed, and we'll see how it happened. So for Andreas Eick, that puts him at a huge disadvantage because now he's going to be a lap down.
Yep.
2 laps down, actually. That just completely screwed his strategy.
I think we kind of know how this was going to pan out.
Yep.
Calamity corner up into the wall, exiting turn 2 by himself.
No surprises. Same old there. Trevor Greenfield in the 36 out for the night, but Andreas Eick hated seeing that because he's trapped 2 laps down now, and he's going to spend the rest of the race fighting back. So I think his streak of thirds is going to end here. Perhaps, but yeah, it's interesting because that didn't have to go that way. He had a couple of cautions to pick times to go in and didn't. So that was it's always odd to me to gamble when you're the leader, but the rest of the field now gets to stick on the same strategy, and the majority of them hit pit lane, starting with Adam Blockers, the race leader, Andrew Kinsella second, Bennett, Kraus, Demerit, and the rest all on that pit lane. I suppose, well, I might pick up 1 lap of that on this stop. But you get a wave around by staying out. The problem is that Ray Kingsbury, I don't think, came in, and if anybody doesn't come to pit road, you will not get that extra lap. And so Kingsbury, well, Eick is gonna, nope, not gonna be able to do it.
Maybe expected it.
And this is so frustrating if you're Andreas Eick, because you look at Ray Kingsbury and you just want him to drop his ice cream because because you just wanted him to just go to pit road and make it easy and save you. But if you're looking at Ray Kingsbury, where he is in the points, Tom, he is currently 4th. Now, if you look at Andreas Eick, you know where Andreas Eick is because you're following him as the points leader. Ray Kingsbury might have just done this to purposely keep Eick down. That's maybe a bit of 4D chess there a little bit, but that could be what he did and keeps Eick trapped 2 laps down where he will not be able to take advantage of that wave around. That would be a lot of thinking, and that'd be really impressive if that's what happened, but it could have happened.
Whether it was on purpose or by accident, it did happen, and it also just helped his race. I mean, he was stuck a little further back in the field, already dodged a major bullet once. He did try this strategy back at Miami, and it didn't pay off for him. He ended up spinning by himself on kind of older tires and had that incident, but he's tried it before.
Caution lights here, the LEDs around the racetrack. I always thought it'd be cool to have like one continuous strip along the top, like this, all the way around the track, up top of the catch fence.
Yeah.
Be really cool.
All windy and crooked like that, or?
Yeah. Installed poorly.
Give me some zip ties. I'll show you my magic.
Oh my! We back at World Challenge at Circuit of the Americas, they gave us about a linear mile of GT World Challenge America banners, and they just handed us like 5 bags of zip ties and said, "Okay, go." And I was up there so mad. I was just zip tying. My hands were raw by the end of it. And I was so mad until Greg Gill, the CEO of World Challenge, was up there doing it with us. And by the end, we had the entire length of pit road of Circuit of the Americas on 2 different levels of the garage on the fencing, completely covered in GT World Challenge America banners. And I said, no one will ever doubt what series is here this weekend. I think they know.
True.
And just like they know that the Texas is a Lone Star state, but none of these stars are very lone because there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
How many stars are on the American flag?
50.
What
would happen if I failed that?
I don't know, but I'd probably, I don't know. I didn't really think that through, to be honest.
I would.
What would you do? You'd be banished. Kicked out. Yeah, I didn't tell you that when you get hired for SimTV, you got to be a
American.
And if you're not, get out.
Don't tell all those Canadian broadcasts we just started doing.
The Canadians are just like us, just nicer.
Just nicer.
Yeah.
Better in most ways.
And, yeah. Car down pit lane, and that is Ray Kingsbury.
Oh, that's extra mean.
And Andreas Eick is going to get the wave around.
Oh, he does get it. Okay,
Yes.
so it does pay off in the end. Half of the problem is gone. Instead of 2 laps, it's only 1 for Andreas Ike, but it's still a long way to go for the championship leader.
Oh, Ike sped on pit lane. That's what happened. Had an extra hole. That's why he was 2 laps down there, Tom. I thought he had gotten it down to pit road speed. Remember, he carried that locked left front all the way into pit road, and so he had a penalty, and that's why he was 2 down. Now he'll only be 1. But it was a mistake, charging a little bit too hard to gain too little.
Well, that's the other risk of the green flag pits is when you pit under full course, you don't have to think about your entry speeds. But from green flag running, it's really, really risky to come in there at full speed and not mess up your entry, especially after you've been doing 200 miles an hour for 35 minutes or whatever it's been.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot of practice. That was his first run down there. For those that are watching here on Sim TV, make sure to subscribe if you are not. About 47% of people that watch Sim TV are not subscribed. So make sure you hit the button and join us for more Coca-Cola of Kokomo Indy Elite Series. We're also sponsored by Raycon. I'm just kidding. That's not true. Or ExpressVPN or private
Squarespace.
Internet. Yeah, Squarespace. Please sponsor me. I'll take your money. All right, as we come out of turn 4, it's Adam Blocker in command, Kinsella, Bennett, Demerit, Burton. Green flag back in the air, lap 59. Kinsella laying back a little bit. Now, I wonder about the restarts because you said he'd been getting really good runs and being right on the tailpipes of the driver in front. I think there's almost an advantage to laying back and building that run. I think he's trying that this time around.
Yeah, his timing had been really good. I don't know if that was just a luck of the draw kind of thing, but I don't think it matters much.
Oh, more trouble. Big crash. Branch hard in the fence. Caution across the racetrack. Scatters. Kraus gets damaged, and that's Crane involved as well. And our 6th caution of the day out at lap 59. Man, they're tearing them up today, aren't they?
They really are. Does that mean that that Ike will get his other lap back?
Maybe. No, because no one's going to pit this time, I don't think. Joe Branch. I think there were 3 wide. Was it the 43 car? 42 car? Yeah, there were 3. Oh, Simpson, rather. Got together with him. Surprised it was only 2 cars. Here's another look at it.
Well, there were more cars that were involved later, but trying to split the difference up the inside. The car was hunting just a little bit. It looks like tank, kind of aero tank slapping almost, and now both of those VRS supported team cars out in that incident. Simpson and Crane both, as well as Branch, and I think a couple of other cars also had slight contacts in that one.
Yeah, I think the 19 of Adam Crane might have just dodged. Branch slams it inside wall, and then you see the 42 of Simpson hit the inside wall pretty hard and does a good job of trying to steer the car away from the banking. And on the bottom, you see the little shark fin across the bottom of the screen. That's Andreas Ike sneaking through. And let's ride on board with him.
Such a tense moment. I know his eyes are up there on the back straight, and he sees this happening already. And it's like, do I lift and try to benefit, or do I brake? And he chose to just kind of coast for a second, pick the right spot.
It was one of those Kimi moments where he comes over the radio. All good.
Yeah.
and pokes through into 23rd. So he's still the first car a lap down, but the 22 drivers in front of him are not all going to pit. Only 3 takers that time by. But if he's persistent about this, he could end up in that position again. I think we're not going to see him pit until he absolutely has to. While everyone else might pit in another 10 to 15 laps or so. So I believe our 5th or 6th caution of the day here at Texas. This has been a messy one here, Tom. At Homestead, we had a couple crashes at the beginning, and then we went pretty much green from there on out. Today, it's been a different story. Do you think this is going to continue to happen, or do you think we're going to have something flatten out and we'll be good to go?
There's no indication that it's going to stop happening, just based on the frequency that it has been happening. It's almost rhythmically within every 10 laps. But I also think it's because of how much faster this track is and how much more time it is spent at cornering by duration at this track. You know, Homestead was kind of 2 identical corners with long straightaways in the middle. This track is much more complex in theory, from shape and banking and different corners on either end and all that. And I think it's just compressing and keeping this field on its toes more than it's ready for.
Yeah, and again, one of our keys to the race was the big track, small line, and the downforce package. And it seems like those 2 things have combined to give us a really challenging situation. I thought the grip level as the sun went down was going to rise enough to sort of offset some of this. It hasn't happened that way, and we continue to get caution flags as we approach the halfway point of this race. Once we get through to a green flag run, these laps take off very, very quickly, but until you get that, it's going to be a long night for everybody here in this field. Demerit, I think, would like this race to get into a bit of a groove, but he has been going backwards on every green flag run since the drop of the green flag. So I don't think he's got the pace that we thought he was going to have.
I agree that he doesn't, and I just noticed a little yellow nose cone in the background of that shot. Look at Matt Hollaba up to 7th now from, what was it, 14th or so on the grid. And that bright green machine is 17th on the grid, 10 positions picked up. He is my Adam Blocker of the night. He's been able to slice through this field and has worked his way within the sight of the leaders, and I think he doesn't show any signs of stopping. Just like that snow out our window.
I was going to say, I've got some corn for popping.
Yeah.
Hollaba runs in 7th. Chris Cahill in the 57 back in 8th. Then David Adams, Matt Kingsbury in 10th. Kitchell been on the outside looking into that top 10. One of my favorite liveries out on that racetrack. Love that Pennzoil yellow with the pinstripes down the side. Riley Thompson trying to been moving forward. And Thompson let us know that he thinks that Ray Kingsbury has some fairly significant damage, but I don't see any. But it could be to the underbelly of this thing. The floor might have been hurt a little bit. Looks like they're gonna hit pit lane, potentially. As we come to 1 to green, a couple other cars peeling off.
Now, you've done more of this than I have. What's the advantage of pitting now versus the first time by on the pit lane if it's open the whole time?
You guarantee yourself starting at the back, which some of these drivers might want to do. Also, if you're pitting for fuel and you're trying to make it to a window, the later you, even if it's only by a lap, if you pit a little bit later, you have a little bit more fuel. So topping off basically here.
Makes sense.
All right, moving back forward, Adam Blocker in the 74. Tonight has led 11 laps. Kinsella has led none. Bennett, none. Demerit, none. Burton, none. All the laps have been led by either Blocker or Andreas Eich, who's down in 22nd, a lap down. Had a fair amount of attrition tonight, looking from 23rd on back, Crane on down, out of the race, crash damage. That's a huge number for not even being to the halfway point of this race. And that's not typical of the Coca-Cola of Kokomo Elite Series. Typically, we see these drivers have very clean, very green races. But this track, this car, this time of the season, really challenging.
Yeah, it's a third of the field that's sitting on pit lane right now, and I think that is also down to just how much drafting is coming into this one. It's compressing the field too, in a kind of an odd way. We saw them cruising in 4th gear in qualifying, and they're getting up to 6th gear top speeds now. It's just a lot more to work with.
Out front, it's Adam Blocker in the 74. And he will take us to the green flag. We'll try it again, lap number 64 of 150. Bit of a stack up behind. Hollaba didn't get a great restart behind the 59 of Evan Adams, but into turn 1. Pretty neat up front, a little bit tighter pack in the back here. For the top spot, here comes Kinsella across the line. Did he lead that lap officially? No, he did not. Awful close, though.
He has been making this high line, this super extreme high line, worked pretty well for him. Didn't do it that time. Henry Bennett gets the run up the inside and follows Blocker down into the corner. Hollaba picks up another spot from Carey as well, so up to 6th for that car. But Bennett picks up the 2nd position. Kinsella's almost contact to the back bumper, or transmission, I should say. Now slots into 3rd.
Henry Bennett jumps to the outside. Kinsella understeers there as Bennett crosses the aerodynamic path. Swings to the bottom. Right behind him is Demerit. Side by side into turn 3 for Carey and Cahill. Carey on the inside, Cahill on the outside. Right behind them, David Adams, the 00, who we didn't talk about a whole lot tonight. He's been sitting on the bottom half of the top 10. Started 18th, running 9th. Not too bad. It's getting scrappy up front, though. I can see him off in the distance. And it seems like it's hard to get by the leader. You can dog and you can defend, but no one has actually passed the leader yet.
It's odd to me because you think it's pretty easy to draft up to the and pass the guy that doesn't have any help. But you're totally right. The leader has been the one that's been most easily protecting their position. Bennett really dogging Blocker, though. Kinsella's dropped off the back. Demerit is filling his mirrors, as is Burton. But these top two, this is what it looks like every time. The leader on the bottom, 2nd place up high just by 1 car length or width, and they do it over and over.
Trying to figure out a lot of the sayings that are used in oval racing. Sitting in the catbird seat, dogging them. I don't know where all these animal references are coming from, but like a cat amongst the pigeons, Ryan Marine, as we head down the back straight. Here comes Bennett to the outside, still unable to make the move on him complete.
Blocker's feeling the pressure. He chased that car all the way to the bottom of the track down the back straightaway, making sure that Henry Bennett couldn't do a quick over-under on him. And is really feeling protective of that lead, I think. And now, as they are threatening each other, Kinsella, Demerit, Burton are getting a lot closer.
He can build a run. Oh, big defense by Blocker all the way down to the white line. Felt the pressure that time. And here comes Holloway with a run. Again, seems like he's one of the fastest drivers on the racetrack. And other than A.J. Burton, Matt Holloway is the fastest driver in the top 6 right now in terms of best lap time tonight.
Certainly no surprise. He's made massive progress, as you can see there, 17th to 6th. And he seems to also be one of the only drivers that can really figure out what to do with somebody when they catch them. He's the only one that's really catching people and passing them. Now, he's only got 5 cars left to pass, and these are going to be the 5 hardest. That's his biggest problem.
Working our way closer to halfway. Jump back a little bit deeper. Here's Adam Dock, Tony Showen, Tanner Watkins joining the party here in the number 24 car. Team Talent. Big understeer there.
Just to his flank, yeah, Philip Kraus, defending series champion, up the inside now, tries to get the inside for 3 and gets there. So Watkins pinned to the outside.
I was going to Waltrip.
I almost did.
Yeah, Michael Waltrip, defending Daytona 500 champion. Blocker to the bottom again through 1 and 2. It's almost like nothing's going to happen here. It just doesn't seem like Bennett can burst that bubble of air. Seems stuck in line.
It's pretty impressive to me when we get a further away shot, the little sniffs of draft that Bennett gets, how much that does for his pace. And as soon as he pops out, the wall, the aero wall, is just incredible. Whoa, Kinsella, grass on the inside there for a moment, was hunting around. Salvages it, but just watch the little sniffs of draft when Bennett gets in there. It's a massive little boost, and then as soon as he's in clear air again, it stops.
Holloway's getting swarmed right now. Cahill coming. Holloway attacking A.J. Burton. Tried to stick nose down the inside. Didn't think that was going to be a smart move, so he backs out, but will lose a spot to Cahill. Adam Dock dealing with Showen, Watkins, Kraus, and Kitchell. Battles all over the racetrack now that we've gotten a green flag run going here. Now, if Bennett can get to the inside of Blocker, game over, I think. But Blocker is very quick to snap that car to the inside lane to make sure that he can't get past.
Yeah, certainly living up to the last name, if that's not too silly a pun. He's really actively seeking the bottom of the track. Anytime we see him even come up a little bit, watch him come back down to the bottom as soon as Bennett gets the chance. Yes, all the way to the bottom lane, and doing. If he slips on that up on that once, you're right, it's game over.
Adam, defensive lineman, right out front right now. Bennett to the outside again. Kinsella following. I think everyone up here is comfortable being here. I don't think they're going to try to do anything crazy to get any positions. Holloway trying to grab positions back from drivers. And nope, they're going to crash here. That was almost disaster for Brian Carey. I mean, I was so calm about it because I thought they were just going to wad him up, but they didn't.
Yeah, and Holloway almost went with him, but they did a really good job to salvage that one. But what's happening right now is because Blocker can only run so fast, it was a 4-car battle, then a 6-car battle. Now it's about an 8 or 9-car battle. And things are, you can only add so many cars to a battle before something goes wrong.
Well, of note of that incident with Holloway, he almost did the same thing Charles Ante did, where he turned down on exit trying to shoot the gap to get around a driver, and they did make contact, but no significant damage for either of them. Cahill, watching out the mirrors right now, sees Carey and Holloway still side by side. And unable to sort it out. It seems like this is one of those tracks where you just get stuck side by side. You just can't run. It's easier to run side pod to side pod than it is to run nose to tail.
I was going to say, I don't know that everyone's content where they are, but I think they're stuck where they are. They don't really know what to do with it past where they are, but we're also still in the meat of this race. We're not anywhere near the end. We're not even in the bottom third of this race. So I think it's okay to be stuck right now. You just got to learn what to do with it if you can do anything.
Well, this is also a great time to experiment because when you get down to lap 148, you're not going to want to try to figure it out then.
Exactly.
Because you're not going to have time. So this is a great opportunity to play with runs, play with different lines, slow up, try to build momentum and try something different. Bennett just seems like he's just kind of clicking off laps right now. I'd encourage him at this middle stage of the race where nothing really matters, figure it out. Play with the line, play with the strategy, play with the runs, and learn something for later. The problem is you got to be able to do that without teaching Blocker what you're going to do.
Exactly. That's what I was just thinking. The counter argument to that is he's maybe baiting Walker into thinking that he doesn't have something, and maybe he does. That's the earliest run he's popped out. He did have some overlap that time across the start-finish line. Kinsella was close too.
Holliba way up the racetrack in 1 and 2 again. Going to build a pretty big run here on Cahill. Now that Holliba's collected himself for a lap or two, he's got that pace back, and I think he's going to get 6th away from Cahill. And on the bottom, I think the bottom is the only place you can actually make a pass up front. I think you can defend on the outside. I don't think you can actually make a pass up there.
Well, in one-on-one, we've seen running the high line through 1 or 3 and then tucking in for a slingshot out of 2 and 4 work, but I don't think it works in a pack like this.
Car on the fence.
Got too much draft.
Sorry, it was Philip Kraus. Nope, is that Philip Kraus that got in the fence, or was it somebody else? It was behind him. It was Adam Dock, maybe? And hit the wall pretty good at the exit of turn 2. Yes, got in the gray.
Oh, that was a big hit.
Yep. And now he's being swarmed by Kitchell and Showin. And staying far away from the wall that time around. It's like rescue dogs that are like afraid of pennies, you know, for no reason. They stay far, far away from them and like, don't, it's fine, don't worry about it.
As I cock my head.
Yeah,
like
that's why we need a camera in here. Show Tom going, what the heck did Kyle just say?
Happens more than you know.
Bennett to the outside again, but not a fruitful discussion for position. Holliba, though, on the back of David Adams for 5th, and I think he's probably going to get this one away. Holliba seems like he's got something that none of these other drivers have. He's able to make passes.
Well, he
set them up.
He had one-on-one pace, but he doesn't seem to have pack pace, and that's often what we saw about a blocker in the first couple rounds, when he also had that kind of ability to pick up positions really pretty easily. But now that they're all stacked up like this, I think I agree that they're all kind of stuck. I was also going to ask where Andreas Eick has sat in the restart. He started at the back, but has he made significant progress? Or
he's the first car a lap down, so he's as far forward as he could go. But he is actually sitting about in the top 10 here in terms of the order.
Yeah, so he has made pretty good progress on getting that lap back. He's going to hit a wall like everybody else has, hopefully figuratively, not literally, but I wasn't sure. I was just trying to figure out if he had been content to sit towards the back or if he's been making progress. He sure has been making progress.
Got to make sure that you're as close to the front as possible, so if they lap cars, you can lap or pass those cars and make sure you're still the front driver here. We've run a while. This is the longest green flag run that we've had. And now if we were to get a caution, this would be the position where everyone else would pit and Ike would stay out and get that lap back. If we run too much longer, they're both going to need to pit. And Ike's opportunity to stay out and get that lap back will probably not exist anymore. So he's got to be cautious of that. Hitting lap 89 here, closing in on 60 to go.
I think a flat-out run like this can only last maybe 43 to 46 laps. We know that Ike did 50, but with a lot of caution help. So I think we restarted close to maybe lap 62 to 65. This is going to be narrowing down pretty quickly within 15 laps of that pit window opening.
Well, you know, it's funny. We feel like we've been doing this for a while. We got the green flag only 10 minutes ago at 8:19 p.m. Eastern. So even a 10-minute run feels like we've been doing this for 25, 30 minutes at this point. And Holliba passed 5th, and here he comes up on demerit for 4th. This is the highest he's been so far today and continues to climb.
That's interesting. He had dropped back as far as battling for 8th and 9th, and now found something. He's really responded. And now the top 5 starting to look like a little bit of a breakaway.
Now half a second back to Cahill in 6th. Playing with the gearbox there a little bit, down to 5th on the straightaway. Down to 4th at the exit of turn 2. And he might get this position on the outside away from demerit.
Now, what I remember, I think it was last week, right? We saw Holliba in a different IndyCar series at Michigan, which is a similar speedway, correct?
Yes, the VMAX IndyCar series.
Maybe a bit of familiarity in this kind of racing for this driver. Has a week up on racing with this car. I don't know if that helps or not, but
it does. But Holliba spends 99% of his time in iRacing in this car. I think he's, as do a lot of these guys, but Holliba is intimately familiar with this car at every combination, at every racetrack, and he's very confident in his driving ability and very comfortable right now, much like we saw Ike earlier. So I think Holliba is going to continue to drive forward and likely will be in the top 3 here in just a few moments. Bennett continues to drop to that outside, but just nowhere to go, nothing to do. That 0-2 car getting bigger and bigger in those mirrors. demerit almost got in the fence. Now Bennett poking to the outside on corner exit of 4. Lap traffic coming up, and this is why Ike needs to be up here, Tom, because they're going to start putting cars a lap down. Ike better be there to pick them up. There he is. He's only about 7th or 8th in line. There he is on the outside, passing cars that are on the lead lap, but he needs to.
Yeah, he's making big moves right there. Interesting to see running 1 and 2 double file pretty comfortably, but single file through 4 every single lap. They have a choreography at this point. At least Bennett has a choreography. Look, he gets alongside in 1, runs high in 2, and then loses it down the back straightaway and will eventually be single file by the exit of turn 4. This is the closest he's been for the position going into 3, though.
It is, and there's some lap traffic coming up. He's a little bit high. I think he needs to pinch down Blocker a little bit more, but he's going to try to build this run and try to use this slipstream, but it just dies on the exit of 4. But that was something different. He did try something different that lap around. Here, I believe, is Dan Ench in the 52. He's going to go 1 lap down, and Ike got to get by him quick if he wants to get a chance to do a wave run. Now note that Ike has 6 lap more fuel. That's dicey. So Ike can stay out longer than the leaders. So he can get himself back on cycle that way. But it's going to take a little bit of luck, which he has not had a lot of tonight.
No.
Kitchell and Shallon still fighting for spots. Up front, kind of even gaps now. That kind of split up the front here just a touch. And Halaba's advantage on Demerit has gone away. He has not been able to continue that fight.
It's the first time in about 10 minutes they've all been single file, but they are single file for now. And
interesting note that Halaba is also in VR. So in terms of spatial awareness, that'll help a lot.
Are the rest commonly not?
A lot of, monitors are still the most common way to enjoy iRacing, but I think Halaba in VR could be an advantage just because you have a little bit more spatial awareness with that three-dimensional environment.
Oh.
Coming to pit lane. And why? Because there's 52 laps to go. This must be his window to make it to the end earlier than I would think, but he's coming on down.
Well, Ike did 50 without fuel saving while leading the race, so I would believe him on the math, but that has opened up a little bit of an interesting battle. Not opened up, that didn't influence it, but all of a sudden Kinsella has hit the afterburners and gets around the outside of Bennett. Bennett dropped off the back of Blocker, and now the battle for second, while Blocker's grins looking in his mirrors.
I was going to say, he's smiling, looking back and seeing those drivers fighting for a position. They're just going to lose time. And Demerit's going to join the party here, make it a 3-car battle. So 50 laps to go this time by. It's only 20 minutes worth of racing. That's how fast these last 50 laps are going to peel off. Here goes Bennett down to pit.
Oh, Blocker tried for the pit lane and got really, really caught up by Ray Kingsbury. Oh, that's a disaster. All of these guys, a super sloppy green flag pit stop because Kingsbury was sitting there in the pit entry. Bennett went with him, I think. No, Bennett. That's not Bennett.
No, it is Bennett, actually.
It is.
Yeah, and Blocker, watch this as he comes into pit lane. He might have sped. So we'll see if Adam Blocker gets the same penalty that Andreas Ike got. Here he is in pit road.
Maybe. I think he was just trying to get single file to Kingsbury, but either way, he had a really bad entry because of that other car sitting there.
Got lucky. He's good to go, and here comes Bennett. Bennett will grab a spot. They're going to drag race off of pit lane here onto the apron. Got to stay under that white line, and it looks like Bennett's actually going to heed.
Yeah, he did.
To the 74.
They're still stuck behind Kingsbury, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Kinsella, Demerit, who are racing for the lead, Carey, Burton, the rest of them probably be way better off on pit if they get a nice, clean entry to pit lane.
And here's Halaba with a huge head of steam. Nowhere to go, though, has to back off the throttle, but this will cycle to be the battle for the lead, so Halaba's pitting early. That undercut seemed like it worked out for him.
It worked out for him, but remember, he was like 8th on the track at one point, so I don't know that this will definitely be the battle for the lead. 3 wide off of 2, that's Harry with Kingsbury in the middle.
Kingsbury's 2 laps down, by the way, so not battling for position.
I still bet this is the battle for 4th or 5th when they get all said and done.
Might be. I'm not sure that they gave up that much time, but I think we'll find out. Here's Andreas Ike. He's up to 4th. And hoping to stay out and maybe catch a caution here, but he still is a lap down.
That was big for Burton, I think. Or was it?
It was Burton.
It was Burton, yeah.
He's going to come hit pit lane. So Ike is going to stay out as long as he can in the hopes of picking up a caution flag, because when he pits, he's still going to be a lap down to the leaders. So Demerit out on his own. With A.J. Burton on pit lane. Tanner Watkins is down on pit lane, so that leaves just Demerit and Andreas Ike left to pit on this cycle with 45 to go. And Ike's going to hit pit road right here. So I think Ike is sort of giving up on this chance of maybe picking up a caution flag. I think he knows the chance for that is low. And Demerit's 50 laps into a run here, so I'd expect to see him hit pit lane pretty much now.
Yes.
Here he comes. I'm good, aren't I?
You are good.
And what was it, down to pit road speed? Locks it up just a little bit. And Holaba will cycle to second. Blocker will resume leading this race as they come out of turn 4. Some lap traffic. Ensch, 3 wide. Nope. Holaba cut Blocker a huge break there.
We've got another lap to complete. We're still not back up to Demerit.
Demerit, oh, we're right.
I'm still really intrigued to see how this plays out. I don't think, I mean, Demerit's going to be by himself, so they're going to catch him no matter what, but I do think Demerit will resume leading this race. Holaba, a massive run to the lead. He's basically third right now. Demerit getting back up to speed.
Yeah, but Demerit will be leading this race for sure. The question is, with this pack running a little bit faster, will they run him down?
Yeah, they will.
And there's Demerit here at 190. Blocker coming at 220 miles an hour. So Demerit, Blocker, Holaba cycle to the top spots. Kinsella top to bottom elevator move at the exit of turn 4. Holaba went down to block. Hole opens and Kinsella will go for it. Did work out for Demerit though. Take that lead back over.
Whoa, Blocker was high, then cuts really low. Full track with lane change all the way to the bottom. Now they're almost 3 wide. The green cars risking fate.
Oh, David Adams slid up in front of Holaba. He's backing away out of this. I think he feels uncomfortable maybe.
Maybe. Look who's got a big advantage right now. Philip Kraus coming out of nowhere in the white and red.
We didn't talk about him a whole lot today.
No, a defending series champion. We know he's consistent, but has been quiet, like you said, and now is battling in the top 5.
Here he comes on Bennett, but nowhere to go just yet. Demerit still has a 2-second lead.
Yeah, they're actually losing time to Demerit right now.
And this is almost exactly what happened. Think back to Homestead. Green flag stops, Demerit comes out in front, leads by 2 seconds, and just drove away in a 1. And with 40 laps to go.
Well, he did the fuel gamble back at Miami.
Yeah.
He's not quite gambling as much tonight, but his strategy has always been his biggest strong suit here at the Ovals, and I think he did get benefited by a little bit of the rest of the field getting blocked or balked on the way into pit lane, but he's sitting pretty right now.
And we should mention that he's got 6-lap fresher tires than M. Blocker, so that is a notable difference. So Demerit has put himself in position to go 3 for 3 on the Ovals this season. Not going to call it that early, but it's possible. He's in the best spot of anybody.
He's definitely, I don't know if he's stuck right now or if he's actually getting help right now from the lapped car that he's running in formation with.
I think, is that Tony Schowen? Yes, it is. Running decent pace, but Blocker did eat into that lead last time around, so I think he's going to start feeling some pressure to get by.
On the flip side, the pressure that Blocker's feeling right now is intensely higher because he's got 5 cars that want his position right behind him.
They signed up for a race, didn't they?
They did.
They want those positions.
The curious thing to me is whether or not they have a little bit of an understanding that they're all trying to catch Demerit right now, or right now they're not flying in the same kind of aggressive formation as they have been. They're working together a little bit better. Kinsella is the only one that looks to be a little bit racy.
Coming in the last couple laps of this race, Demerit leads by 2 seconds. They're eating into it, but only slightly. It's hundredths, not thousandths, or hundredths, not tenths, rather. And at that pace, I don't know if they're going to get there. And again, if it comes down to just raw tire pace, Demerit would win. So I'm liking where the 144 car is. I like his position. I like his strategy, and I think he's in position to just go off and win this race should there be no more cautions or any funny business of the sort, especially if they're battling for position back here.
Yeah, at some point, if they don't have the gloves off already, they're going to. And that's going to be the final nail in their coffin before Demerit takes the win. The other question is whether Demerit can trust the lapped cars that he's around. And if they make a mistake, which a car outside the lead lap is more prone to do, they could be the reason that this field catches him.
Oh, Kinsella got a little bit high there. He's going to give up a spot to Bennett. Quite cleared for position, but almost gave it away. Blocker moving on by. Is that the 76 car up high? No, it is not. Andreas Ike still a lap down, but he's not the first car a lap down, so even if we got a caution and everyone pit, he would still be stuck and trapped. Remember, all comes back to that lap 52 caution. And Andreas Ike is not going to be able to finish third today unless there are some extreme circumstances to wrap this race up. That's the 99 car of Adam Dock in the fence.
Almost came down on one of the top running cars. I think it was Kitchell that almost got the door.
I would love to go back and just take these IndyCar races and just clip all the oops and uhs and all the sounds that we make when we almost see crashes.
Yeah, it's true. You can make a soundboard event of it. But Henry Bennett picked up third. Kinsella is still trying to make that high line work. I don't know if he's stuck there or if he's doing it on purpose.
Notably, Adam Blocker has shaved that lead down to 1 second flat, and he's also free and clear of Bennett and Kinsella. So now it's Blocker versus Demerit. Where did we see this last time? Homestead. Who won? Demerit. We'll see if it stays that way. The Blocker is closing.
Well, we saw it again the next week at Phoenix. Remember, these two have finished 1-2 in every oval race this season.
Not a huge sample size, but 2 for 2 is pretty good, and they might go 3 for 3.
It is 100% still.
Yeah, you're right.
And I don't know how Blocker is he running quicker or did...
Yeah, 3/10 faster last time by. He's really making ground. And I think Demerit's got to ditch 31 here. This might be his 34, excuse me. No, not even that. It's not Cahill anymore. Who is he working with? Oh, it's Tony Schowen, rather, in the 31.
He was running with Schowen. So Schowen, at some point, stopped helping him. I can't quite figure out why Blocker would have gotten faster without traffic behind him, unless it's an aerodynamics thing. But all of a sudden, he's within drafting distance, and this is going to be a heads-up battle for the lead, which, with 30 laps to go, I see this thing turning back into a 6 or 7 great car battle.
Yeah, I mean, Blocker does have 6-lap older tires, but he has been running Demerit down. But now that Demerit has that car out of the way, if he starts pulling away, I think Blocker's done and over with. If Blocker keeps making ground and the draft is enough to close this gap, it could be anybody's race at this point.
I have to imagine within a half a second it's pretty good, the draft. And look at that, came down a 1/10.5 on the front straightaway alone. Oh, he's coming quick.
Yeah, pretty quick, 0.3 of a second. Christopher Demerit is completely undefeated this season on the oval racetracks. And look at the gain that Blocker just had in 3 and 4. He's got that car set up, and he's going to go all the way from 2.5 seconds back right to the rear wing of Christopher Demerit. Demerit's going to try to break that draft. Blocker's going to hunt him for it. But at this point, now it's just turning into an NASCAR restrictor plate race.
Yeah,
where do you want to put your car?
We've got 123 laps minus caution laps of the leader doing the exact same thing no matter who it is, and the second place car doing the exact same thing no matter who it is. So that tells me there's really nothing else they can do unless someone's really keeping their cards close to their chest. The biggest problem that these guys have right now is they didn't make it a 2-horse race early enough. They've got the rest of the field coming pretty quickly with Henry Bennett and the rest. So I think the longer they just run in that formation, it's going to compress, and within 25 laps, it might be right at the checkered flag that it kind of comes together.
I think it might come together in the next 3 or 4 laps with how fast Henry Bennett is. Last time by, he was 6/10 better than Demerit and Blocker. So he is coming, and it's bringing the crew with him. And already at the exit of turn 2, we're all back together again.
Right.
Funny how that happens. And for the lead, here comes Blocker to the bottom, pulls out a line. Boy, that was easy.
Demerit didn't even try to block the bottom, and I don't know if he's not used to leading and didn't know that that's what he needed to do, but that's the first time we've seen somebody shuffle. And Blocker back to the lead, Demerit second place, but without a fight.
Not over yet. I remember I mentioned it's a lot like a NASCAR restrictor plate race where you want to put your car. Maybe Demerit would like to be second place here right now, but I don't know. I've seen Blocker be so good out front tonight, and I think I want to be in front. I don't think I want to be trailing anybody.
Be the first time we've seen somebody be able to pull away from a pack, that's for sure. But Demerit's not even really hunting for the draft much.
Philip Kraus down pit road. See if he maybe had a collision of some sort, but this 31 car of Schowen is definitely being a thorn in the side of the Demerit machine now. And it's going to split up Adam Blocker, I think.
Yeah, that's odd. All of a sudden, Schowen wants the lead lap back, starting to attack on Blocker as well. Bennett up the inside of Demerit, picks up second place.
Demerit's long run pace doesn't seem like it's as good as Blocker's. We saw how much time Blocker gained just in one corner, and now the next car to go by is Kinsella on Demerit. So he goes from first to fourth in a matter of 3 laps. This face of this race has totally changed. in 6 miles.
It certainly has, and now he's got another problem. Carey goes up the inside, so Demerit back to 5th. Also, Schauen has taken his lap back in front of Blocker. And now Blocker's back in the clutches at the top 5.
Now this looks like racing from a couple seasons ago. Blocker and Bennett out front in command with Andrew Kinsella chasing him to throw it back to 2019, the way that things are looking. Matt Kingsbury hits pit lane. This time by will be 21 laps to go.
Matt Holleba is the next one on Christopher Demerit's list. And we know that car is really quick. There they all are coming through turn 2.
And watch the run that he's going to get down the back straightaway. 3 car lengths, 2 car lengths, 1 car length there. Dangle the carrot. He's going to take a bite. Right underneath the camera, down the front straightaway. Blocker and Bennett. That scared me a little bit.
This is very bizarre with Tony Schauen continuing to run in formation with the leaders, but as a car lap down.
Like what? I mean, he doesn't really have much of a choice. It's just it's strange to me that he hasn't been disposed of by this point.
Yeah, it tells the story even more. That everyone just kind of gets locked into position. But what's interesting now, Bennett's the only car that didn't get stuck down low or up high, and now has a look up the inside, but around the outside. Finally, Schauen lifts and lets them through. Took him 10 laps to think of it, but he finally thought of it, and now the rest of the field has to go high around him into 3 and 4.
On the front straightaway, 18 laps to go. Here comes Kinsella with a run to the outside of Bennett. More traffic. I heard the car bottom out for a second, actually. I heard the floor hit the floor.
The floor hit the floor. Yeah. Come on, J-Lo. So Blocker sits 3rd in the championship. Kinsella is 5th, and Bennett is 8th.
Oh, slow.
Holleba
hitting pit road. Can't make it to the end. Does that throw a wrench into things here? Kinsella back 0.2 of a second. Carey and Bennett fighting for 3rd, then Demerit back in 5th. Is Demerit fuel saving?
I imagine he might have to, because we know that Ike did 50 laps on a lot of caution, and Demerit saved, Pitt with 48 laps to go.
Demerit also has 6 laps more fuel than everybody else, though. So why would he be saving? Or
maybe everybody else definitely has to. I mean, Demerit is typically the best on these strategy calls like this so far by record. So if he's thought of fuel saving and the rest of them definitely have a pit stop left, he might be in another one of those positions to really surprise us.
15 laps to go for the race leader. Next week we head to Pocono, another big speedway. A lot different design out there, but I think we'll see a lot of the same players. Demerit almost knocked down the Lone Star wall there on the back straightaway, but he somehow kept it off. Demerit finding a bit more pace now, marking up the rear spoiler of the 007 again. Now all we can do is wait. I mean, I don't really know what to think. This has been, I don't want to say chaotic, but just confusing the last 50 or so laps. I'm not really sure where we are. I'm not sure who's the best. I don't know who can pass, who can't. 13 to go, though. We'll sort it out.
This is definitely, yeah, like I said, no matter who's leading, no matter who's second, the races always look the same. The only time that we've been surprised is when Demerit just lifted and easily let Blocker through, which leans into the theory that he might be fuel saving a bit, suspecting that a majority of the rest of the field has to pit, but the majority of the rest of the field should also be pretty good on fuel. Other than we did just get a hint, Holleba with that pit stop. Maybe majority of the top 10 has pit stops left.
The problem is the mileage of these Dallara IR18 Indy cars can be so variable from just following in the draft versus running out. You can have a 10-lap variation in fuel mileage with these cars, which is what makes it so hard to predict. So they are expecting pit stops here. And more. Evan Adams, David Adams, yeah, they're all coming. So that is Demerit. So Demerit, now that puts him back in as my favorite here because he's got 4 more laps. Crash Bennett in the fence.
Ooh. Well, that could definitely put the strategy off for Demerit. I was just going to say he probably also was able to fuel save pretty well behind Tony Schauen.
Adam Blocker.
Whoa.
Bailing out of pit lane because the pit's closed when the caution comes out. He just managed to do it. Henry Bennett crashed out. Not a great season for him going so far. Here's a look. One of our top runners of the day comes out of turn 2 and just gets loose and just crashes. I sound not surprised because we've seen it happen 5 or 6 times today here, Tom. I'm not surprised at all that this happened. But it did shake up the race a whole lot, and now Matt Holleba is trapped a lap down, as is Andreas Ike and more. But Ike is the first driver 1 lap down. The leaders are likely going to pit, which would promote Ike back to the lead lap, of which there are only 8 drivers. We'll see how this pans out.
Yeah, that could be a big shift. That would be great for his championship for sure, because if he had gotten stuck down there in the 20th or so, he would have been in a pretty nightmarish situation coming back to this championship. But if he finishes in the top 10, maybe dare we say even the top 5, the championship leader could maintain a pretty good spot there. Yeah, not surprised how it happened, but surprised that happened with Henry Bennett there.
So everybody on pit lane and on the lead lap, which Andreas Ike wanted to see. Obviously, he will stay out. And Demerit pit as well. No reason not to at this point.
He did, but did Blocker lose a bunch of time with that pit bailing out? Look at him still sitting there in pit lane. He's taking tires as well. Yeah,
he did lose a bunch of time doing that, and also likely has a penalty because, oh, no, it doesn't look like he did. Sometimes if you enter pit lane and then leave, you get a penalty.
Yeah.
But there is a commitment cone at the exit at turn number 4. If we go over here, this is misleading because this cone in the real world, if you miss this cone and go this way, or you do this is a penalty. But in iRacing, the only cone you need to pay attention to is this one. So he actually went through this red area, which is fair game here in iRacing to leave pit lane while the pit road is closed.
So he probably dodged the penalty, but he certainly lost a lot of time. As you can see, he's down there in 8th, and somehow Demerit, with as much extra fuel as he had, probably not taking tires as well, is being scored the current leader.
So Andreas Ike.
You think he took tires?
The
144, Demerit. He had fresher tires than the rest.
3.6 seconds in a box tells me that was fuel only.
Yeah. So cycle himself through to the lead, and then the majority of the field will get the wave around. Andreas Ike is sitting pretty good.
Yeah, but here's the thing about Andreas Ike is look at the drivers behind him. David Adams, Matt Holleba, and Philip Kraus, and actually everyone behind him has pit more recently. They are not likely going to pit. And they're just going to start right behind Andreas Ike. Andreas Ike has 37-lap-old tires.
He didn't care when he had 50-lap-old tires, though.
Back
at the beginning,
that's a good point.
I don't know that tire wear is much of a factor tonight. It's going to be more his decision-making on the green flag and his opportunity with the kind of restart that he gets, because we do see the field run pretty single file for at least 3 laps, which makes, what, 5 racing laps?
Yeah.
Realistically, by the time they're actually racing each other.
And we have no funny business here on the late race cautions. If we get a caution with under 5 laps to go, we can expect it to end that way under caution. So Andreas Ike is hoping to get as many green flag laps as possible. We will likely get to 1 to green here and have at least at the restart 6 laps to go. So once you get the field sorted, you're looking at 3, maybe 4. Ike is going to have to get real busy on real old tires real fast if he wants to salvage his consecutive 3rd-place finish run or a victory. Because I think Andreas Ike was the fastest car in this race by 1.5 miles, but he was 1.5 miles behind for most of the race, and that's why he's sitting in 9th. Deep breath. Been a long night. We had a lot of crashes, a lot of attrition tonight. Joe Branch, Greenfield, Rorschach, Ante, Stouffer, Nito, Musselman, Downing, Stanley all out with crash damage. And we have, as it stands, only 19 of our 33 starters rolling, and only 14 of them on the lead lap. Wave around time. About half the drivers in the race are going to get that wave around to come back around and tack themselves on at the tail end of the field. All right, pick me a winner, Tom.
I got to go with Demerit. He's, other than his raw pace hasn't been awesome, I think I'm leaning towards that he was fuel saving when we saw him losing positions a little bit earlier. He's put himself strategically right back in a fantastic position. The only real wild card for me is Kinsella being so good on those restarts early on. If he can tack onto the back of Demerit and maybe make a move early on with a surprise. We've just seen passing be at such a premium tonight.
It's a hard pick, and I didn't like how far down he came off of pit lane, but I'm going to have to go with Adam Blocker. I think this is his time. I think he's going to restart deep in the field, but he's got tires, he's got energy, he's got pace, and he passed Christopher Demeritte. Whether or not Demeritte lifted, that's a whole other question. We'll see if he can do it. He's going to have 6 laps to get there. This is the Triptacular Memories 225 from Texas for the Indy Elite Series, sponsored by the Coca-Cola Bottling Company of Kokomo, Indiana. Demeritte, Kinsella, Carey, Thompson, Watkins, Burton, Blocker, Kitchell, Ike, Adams, your top 10. 6 laps to go from Texas. Green flag back in the air.
Oh, Demeritte really got a good launch on Kinsella. Carey sticks with Kinsella, though, and the field is a little more messy down at the bottom. A car dropping to the back of the pack.
Huge stack up behind him. Andreas Ike got completely stuck in line, couldn't do much with it. Are we gonna make it back without tearing up a car or 5? Burton and Watkins, that's the battle you're seeing on screen, red versus black. Burton completes that pass. Caution, 6, make it 5 laps to go. Demeritte leads. It's Simpson. And is that, who is that, the Kingsbury car? Yes, Matt Kingsbury crashed. So this, we might get a lap of racing left.
Well, we said Kinsella was a wild card on the restart, and he was in the middle of making that surprise move.
See if he was scored in the lead.
Come on, Mustang.
In a moment. It's only got 300 horsepower.
He was he?
He might have been scored. Wow, what happened here? We'll revisit that here in just a minute, but Kingsbury. Was it Dan Ench on the bottom? Right here, he's going to get tagged just the slightest touch. Catches that outside wall, spins Kingsbury around. So that, nope, it looks like Demeritte. He thought he was supposed to be leading, but Demeritte is the race leader.
Well, they were really, really close across the start-finish line. And I think from what I saw of that momentum, unless Demeritte had already lifted for the full course, Kinsella was going to have a great opportunity to make a move.
This saves Andreas Ike, I think, because he had a terrible restart. He's not going to have any time to do anything with it, but he'll finish higher than he was otherwise going to, I think, unless he gets screwed again on the restart.
You want to repick your pick?
Repick my pick?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to repick my pick. I'm going to go with Kinsella.
Okay.
I mean, I think at this point, because I got to pick someone in the top 3. If we get 1 lap, though, to the end of the race, Tom, Demeritte's going to win because you don't have enough time if you're second to build that run. And these cars,
I don't know. We saw how close they were at the start-finish line. If there's another carbon copy of that restart, I think if there's a 1 to go, that's the best chance that Kinsella has to win, not the worst.
I think Demeritte, what he should not do is try to get an amazing restart because what happens is you'll get that big gap and then the Kinsella car will suck right back up to the tailpipe. So I think what Demeritte needs to do is back up Kinsella so that there's no gap, and then you can't build enough momentum. And these cars have a ton of power, but they also have a lot of mechanical grip that like NASCAR Cup cars don't have. So when you're talking about restarts in NASCAR Cup cars, it's about modulating the throttle, make sure your tires stick to the ground. Here, flat foot, you're going. And it's really difficult to get an advantage if you don't actually beat someone to the throttle. So Kinsella, I think, has to either beat Demeritte to the throttle to have any chance of winning, or Demeritte has to get an overly aggressive restart and then get past that at turn 4. Either way, it's going to be close. We might get 2 to go, though. If we get a purple flag this time around, that will mean 1 to green, but I think we're going to go around again and have 1 lap left. Green, instant white, and then checker. Looks like that'll be the case. I think Demeritte, if he does this restart correctly, I don't think there's any way that Kinsella can beat him.
Yeah, I agree with the backing up strategy just because of how far he got a great launch on that final restart, that most recent restart, and Kinsella almost beat him to the line, which tells me that the less room you give Kinsella, the better you are if you're Demeritte.
So rolling through turn 2 now, and there's a lot of thinking going on right now under the helmet for the number 14. And like I said, the other thing that you could do is back up Brian Carey and Thompson and Moore and make Demeritte have a large gap.
Yeah, if you're Kinsella, you might realize you need a little bit of a gap, but I also think if Demeritte backs up Kinsella, he's opening up that opportunity for Carey, Thompson, Burton, etc., to pick a fight. I just also noticed, how about Riley Thompson up into the top 4?
Yeah.
I think he had qualified 20-something.
He has just been quietly creeping into this group. 32nd,
Wow.
almost dead last.
Great run for him.
Yeah, and not a scratch on that thing tonight. don't think he'll be able to win this race, but he could grab a podium out of it if he's lucky. So will we get a 1 to green signal here? If we do not, this race is over. I suspect we will. Will the lights shut off atop the pace car? Will the flag go away? It will. We will have a 1-lap shootout in Texas. The lone lap state is what they call it, I think. And the flagman's going to have to wave 2 flags at once. It'll be the white and the green for this restart. Demerit, Kinsella, Carey, Thompson, Burton. Then Watkins, Blocker, Kitchell, Holliba, Andreas Ike. Now, Blocker is kicking himself, I think, for taking those tires and spending so long in pit lane because he didn't get a chance to use them.
Yeah, big time. But you got to take the gambles, and gambles haven't paid off nearly as much tonight. Ike tried it. Blocker tried it. It's been an interesting one. This one was the hardest to read of our season so far.
Hardest to read. I felt like I was reading a different language tonight.
Yeah.
We come into Texas sort of expecting certain racing habits, and we just saw none of it. I think it's because this track is reprofiled from the last time the series is visited here. We have a different group of drivers. We've also got weirdly timed caution flags that sort of threw a wrench into this mix. And now, in about 45 seconds, we're going to know who wins this race. It might be anticlimactic. We might have cars upside down and in the safer barrier here in a lap. But Christopher Demerit out front trying to go 3 for 3 on the ovals, 3 for 4 in the season. Kinsella trying to win his first of the year. Carey, Thompson, A.J. Burton. Restart. 1 lap to go for the Coca-Cola Bottling Company of Kokomo, Indiana, Indy Elite Series. The Triptacular Memories 225. A mile and a half left. Green flag, Demerit with a 5 car length gap. That might be too much there, Tom.
It's big, that's for sure. And it'll still be a surprise to me if Kinsella can get there, but if he's got enough of a slingshot.
Here he comes. Going to build that run on the back straightaway here. Demerit's going to weave and do the best he can. He might have done enough. Through 3 and 4, Demerit trying to go 3 for 3 on the ovals as they come out of the final corner. The Triptacular Memories 225 comes down to the stripe, but Demerit is going to win it and go 3 for 3 on the ovals. Kinsella crashing across the line, 2nd place. Carey, Thompson, Burton, the rest of the top 5. Blocker 7th, Ike 9th. All he had to do was get a good restart, and he nailed it.
It's amazing to me. There's something in the mind of Christopher Demerit that sees how these fuel stops and how these caution flows and all of that. He's got the mind of a race strategist that just foresees how these situations can play out and manages to put himself in the position to be at the front on these oval races. Celebration in the 144, 3 for 3 on the ovals. Very different races, but the same result every time.
A pretty good record. I'll give him that. And this is a huge warning to everybody else. 3 wins this early in the season. If you are not beating Demerit right now, you better start learning how to do it because we got a lot of ovals coming up. We got Pocono, the Triangle next week. I don't think removing a turn is going to make Demerit any less good. So we'll see if he can go 4 for 4 on the ovals, non-road courses next week at Pocono. Tonight, Christopher Demerit led only 32 laps. It was the 76 of Ike and the 74 of Blocker that led the most. But Christopher Demerit wins. Here's a look at your race results. And no surprise, if you had read the results prior to the race of the last 2 oval races, you would probably pick this outcome. Maybe put Blocker and Ike up the road a little bit more. But Ike, his streak of thirds ends tonight.
A great run for Kinsella. He was 5th in the championship coming into tonight. He beat Ray Kingsbury by a lot. He beat Adam Blocker by a little. He beat Andreas Ike by a little. So that's going to be a great championship night for that number 14 car. And then a couple of just stellar moves and drives for Brian Carey, Riley Thompson especially from 32nd. A.J. Burton there in 5th. And they had a big gap, did the top 2 at the finish. 3.
Again, Andreas Ike comes home. I had him scored as 9th, although this seems to want him in 10th. I think he finished P9, so give Ike his first non-top 5 of the year. Still a top 10, though. David Adams, Kraus, Adams, DiCienzo, Ray Kingsbury comes home 15th, and then a list of a lot of drivers from basically 19th on back that ended this race with a crash. Lots of attrition, Tom. Tricky conditions tonight.
And then the drivers that ended up in the wall. Bennett, Crane, after winning back there at Barber. Heartbreak tonight. Cahoe, Branch, Greenfield, Rochek, all of them. Charles Ante, big incidents early on.
And Wilsonito dropped out and never returned. Another missed opportunity for the driver that started on pole and led the early moments of this race. Just like Homestead, it will not be a victory for Nito tonight. He'll try again from Pocono next week. We've got our drivers waiting for us to talk to. The first of which we're going to chat with is Brian Carey, who finished in third place tonight, the number 79. Brian, a wild race tonight, unpredictable up here from in the booth. Take us through your night, those caution flags early, and then the strategy towards the end of the race. Take us through your evening.
Thanks, Scott. Well, first of all, it's good to be here. I've gone out in lap 2, turn 2 of the 3 races, so it's good to be here. But yeah, honestly, the cautions themselves, not going to lie, a little boring from my side of things, just because it was all behind me. So you get like, maybe I think we got about 10, 12 laps in at one point, and then it's back to, getting everyone gathered up. So there's a lot of time to think, a lot of time to some self-reflection there. But really, at the end, at the end of the day, it came down to that last pit stop, and didn't know where Demerit was going to end up, whether he was going to have to splash or not. We were going to have to splash. We had to splash, and he had to splash. We're in a pretty good position, but I mean, that's just the way it shook out. I mean, Adam really got bit there. I mean, he should have been. He dominated the thing pretty much the whole way, so it really sucks for him.
Yeah, it didn't end the way that he wanted. We've got Pocono coming up next week and another sort of big non-road course. It's not really an oval per se, but the big tracks so far this season have been kind of wild. Homestead started off with a bunch of crashes. So did Texas. Do you think Pocono is going to look any different, or do you expect a high attrition right there as well?
Honestly, I haven't been on the track since we've got the updated tire in the car, so I'm not really sure how it runs. I mean, something like here at Texas, there were some quirks that weren't there the last time we ran at this track. That we had kind of workarounds, so I don't know how Pocono is going to shake out. I mean, I always like the track there. I mean, it's really hard to predict. I don't think you're going to see the same kind of incidents that we saw at Homestead and here at Texas. I'm hopeful anyway, but honestly, I mean, it's a guess at this point. We still have a lot of work to do this week to get ready for it.
All right, Brian. Hey, congratulations, P3 tonight from 8th. Nice run. We'll see you at Pocono. Best of luck to you there.
Appreciate it, Kyle.
Move on now to Andrew Kinsella, who finished in second by a 1/10 of a second, left nothing on the table, ended up junking the car on the pit wall at the end of the race, but gave it all your all, and just needed to nail the restart, but Demerit did it just a little bit better. Had you had another lap, Andrew, do you think you could have gotten it done?
Undoubtedly. I had the fresher tires. I think I would have been able to, if I didn't get him through 2, I would have been able to duel with him down the backstretch, and I think I would have been able to get by him, just because I think the fresher tires would have allowed me to do what I needed to do to get by him. Yeah, I should be really happy with the second place, but we had such a dominant car today. The whole Power Slide team, Adam, Henry, myself, Brian, we were up there the entire race, and honestly, it sucks getting second. I had him on the second to last restart, and then I guess Kingsbury and a couple of other guys touched going through 3, and that ruined that run. And yeah, I just feel incredibly unlucky at this point, but hats off to Demerit, and he ran a great race. He was fuel saving, I know, and it would have been, I think, close for him, and it would have been an interesting finish if it had gone green. But yeah, congrats for the win, and good job to Brian for his podium here.
Well, it's a second for Andrew Kinsella. Best finish of the season for you. Congratulations. I know it's not what you wanted, but 3 top 10s in 4 races so far. So best of luck to you at Pocono, Andrew. Good luck.
Yeah.
Move on now to Chris Demerit, who is 3 for 3 on the ovals this season, and in spectacular fashion, jumping away on a restart. 6th to first tonight, but it started from the rear of the field. Lots of cautions early. Chris, take us through your night and driving back through the field, navigating all those cautions, and then dropping back with about 10 or 15 laps to go. What happened there, and then just that last run to the end? Lots of action, I'm sure, out both the windshield and the mirrors tonight.
Oh yeah, it was definitely an interesting night. It was better than I thought it was gonna go, honestly. I had the EOL from Barber from the last round. I started from the back, and I knew it was gonna be kind of packed up like it was. But depending on who you were with, you could like lose a group of cars in front of you. So I knew that I had to kind of make my way through slowly. I also knew that because it was so easy for people to stay behind each other, and our car felt so good that I could save a lot of fuel. So it was kind of, honestly, I was just balancing the 2 of them the entire race. I don't think there was a point where I was like going full rich more than like a lap or 2 just to keep up. yeah, I was on that last long green flag stint. I was gonna cut out a stop that I think almost everyone else is gonna have to do with about 10 to 5 to go, and I had to save a little bit more, but it was a number that I could hit by myself in clean air with pretty easily. So I knew that I was doing pretty well there, and then just glad with how those final restarts happened. We made the in classic fashion for me this season, made another blunder on pit road, which ended up working out because we took a tear off only under that last pit stop instead of meaning to take tires. So that was interesting. But yeah, just glad it worked out how it did. I would have been, even if that very last caution didn't happen and we had like a 5 to go shootout, I think I still would have finished pretty well. I think holding on to the lead would have been hard because my right front was hurting a little bit, but I think I could still have fought for a podium at the very least. But yeah, it was just a good night.
3 for 3 at the ovals, Chris. So you're undefeated on anything other than the tracks with the right turn. So best of luck to you at Pocono. 3 left turns there next week. We'll see you there.
Yeah, thank you. See ya.
That'll do it for tonight at Texas. That was a lot longer than we thought it was going to be, Tom. Lots of trouble in the early going, but they got it all sorted out, and they finished it off in style with a 1-lap shootout to the end, Tom. But Demerit goes 3 for 3. We head to Pocono next week. Tricky Triangle. Texas was tricky. I'm not sure if it could get a whole lot trickier than that.
And figuring out how to beat somebody on track and be faster than them is one thing, but figuring out how to outthink them is something else. And Chris Demerit is winning on his ability to visualize and operate these races on a level that no one else has figured out on the ovals. It's going to be interesting to see who can read the room like he can in the future.
You've watched the Triptacular Memories 225 here on SimTV. Next week, Pocono, Pennsylvania, the Tricky Triangle with the Coca-Cola of Kokomo Indy Elite Series. Kyle Heyer alongside Tom O'Gorman. We'll see you again on Tuesday for the Fuel Mission 22 Premier Series from Indianapolis, then Wednesday for Spec MX5 Sim Racing Challenge from Mid-Ohio. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on Tuesday.